Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up. My name is Scott Morgan, out the Motor City Madmouth. Please be joined by Mark Madman Mancini. There's a lot of mad in this broadcast, but it's okay. But we're talking baseball tonight, Mark. I haven't. Now we're getting to the point where we're toward the end of football with just a couple of conference championship games in the Super Bowl. But now spring training is right around the corner. So you know what? We're going to get right to it first and go from there. All right, Mark. Since you're a Southern California guy, Angels owner Artie Moreno won't sell the team. It says he has unfinished business. What's your thought about that?
I like it, man. I really do. I think pulling it off the market, and he says, "Hey, it wants to win something for the fans again," and it's been quite a while. But with his GM in charge there, Perry Manassian, who I'll sit down with on Friday this
Right.
week and talk and figure out where the Angels are headed. And I think they're heading in a great direction. I mean, the bar is the Houston Astros, the defending World Series champions, but I like the Angels' chances. The pickups over the winter with Ursula and Renfro and Brandon Drury, Tyler Anderson, great pickups, 4 to be exact. So you got a healthy Mike Trout there. You got Shohei Ohtani. Who knows what they'll do moving, some pieces in the future. But for the time being, I like where they're headed.
Yeah, you know what, Mark? I don't have a problem with Artie Moreno taking his team off the sales block, too, because you know what? Let's face it, one thing he does have. He has deep pockets and he's willing to spend. Now, there's a difference between willing to spend and whether you're going to spend wisely. And that's where the Angels will actually have to kind of figure it out where, okay, how good are these moves that we made during the offseason? Will they finally lead to a winning season? We know that Mike Trout is out there. You don't want to waste his talent. You don't want to go out there and waste Shohei Ohtani, who's probably going to be a free agent the next year or two as well. So you got to convince Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout that you're headed in a good direction, or you're not retaining at least Ohtani. I know Trout's there for a little while. But before we go any further, Mark, I just want to let everybody know that Fire Up can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. So, whether you're on a bike, subway, wherever, feel free to go out there and you can listen that way. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. We're getting there, but we need all the help that we can get. We do a lot of great shows during the week. Well, I think they're great because the one thing I really take pride in it, Mark, is I really research these topics very thoroughly with the intent that everybody can be educated and informed and value the opinions that are set out there. So please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Much appreciated. We're going to go on to the next topic. We're going to stay in Southern California, though, Mark. Why are you such a Dodgers hater? I see you are a madman all over. You don't like the Dodgers, do you? Man, I'm judging by what you're putting on Facebook, for gosh sakes. I'm thinking to myself, you live in there, you can't stand them anyways. I mean, what the heck is the matter with you? I mean, I realize they haven't won a World Series with a full schedule in quite some time, but nevertheless, I've never seen a more outspoken individual on Facebook like you are bashing the Dodgers. I need to hear the logic.
Well, I think, I was born in a small market town of Pittsburgh and raised in a big market, LA. And when you look at the Dodgers, in the 70s and stuff, they were, well-defined. Walter O'Malley, they had an infield that played together for like 8 years in Garvey, Lopes, Russell, and Shea. I think, they were the bar in some ways out here in the West Coast. Everybody followed it. They were then all of a sudden they kind of felt sour here in my mind with the Mike Piazza thing and the Fox group coming in there and
Right.
Kind of shoveling him off to Florida at the time. And then when you looked at it, McCourt kind of ran it into the ground and people weren't showing up. But I think the big thing here is they've been a bridesmaid for so long. And, I don't count the 2020 World Series. You can count them. This guy listening to the show can count them and everything. But when you look at their record and, I bring facts to the table, they haven't won a World Series in almost 4 decades playing a full season of 162 games. And you can look it up for yourself. But, if you want to count the 2020, and some people will, and most people will figure they got to win something to take that asterisk off. But, the problem with it is I think they're built for the regular season. They're not built for the postseason, and you're seeing it in more ways than one. They didn't do anything in the trading deadline last year, and they feel like, well, we were ripped off by the Astros cheating, the Red Sox cheating. John Wooden once said, Scott, you know who he was.
Sure.
No excuses, make adjustments. And they just really haven't made adjustments. And I think the guy that you got to point the finger out here is Andrew Friedman. And I've been saying for the last 5 years, he hasn't done anything to make this team better to actually have 3 World Series playing 162 games.
Yeah, you know what? You won't even get a debate with me whatsoever about the 2020 season. You're just lucky to get the darn thing in because of COVID-19. They had to do something. What else could you have done? And the only thing you're going to get out of it is if you're a player, you're getting a championship ring, and nobody will be able to hold the fact that you didn't win a championship. So, I mean, that has to count for something, without a doubt, in the sense. But do I think it deserves an asterisk? Well, I don't think nobody's going to ever give it an asterisk because you have a lot of shortened seasons due to labor and so forth. If they didn't get asterisk, you're certainly not going to do it to COVID-19, which is unfortunate. Took a lot of lives, including my aunt, who was like an older sister to me. I really hit that one hard because I lost Mark, undoubtedly the most important person in my life. And I got to tell you, to this point, my Aunt Judy Stroll, to me, there's such a void missing, Mark, with this woman being, it's like, when you go out there and lose an older sister, somebody that's so close to you that knows what you're about, it's hard. So, COVID-19, the season that played, they got it done. I mean, albeit under extraordinary circumstances. So, but no, I can certainly appreciate where you're coming from. I do. I really, but what can you do? All right, we're going to stay a little bit onto the Dodgers a little bit, but this is one where I saw you make an interesting comment. So this is a night of the show that I can really go out there and single out some of your social media things. And this one, when I noticed your comment, didn't seem like you were a fan of Miguel Rojas trade, or you? Now, before you comment on that, I've worked with Miguel Rojas the last few years. And this guy will not tear the cover off the bat. I'll tell you right now, Mark. Again, I know I work with him with the Miami Marlins. But what you're going to get with this guy is steady defensive play. You follow me? And he's an incredible leader. And a couple of years ago, at the end of the year, I asked Rojas, did he ever have aspirations to go out there and be a manager? Because he was actually the acting manager for the Marlins' final game of the year. I'm going to tell you something, Mark. You're looking at a clubhouse leader like no other. So the Dodgers are going to be lifted there, and a future manager in MLB. I mean, I personally like Miguel Rojas. I'm happy he went to the Dodgers. That's where he began his career anyways. But I want to get your feelings on Miggy.
Well, first of all, and, whenever I comment on something, I make sure I bring facts behind it.
Right.
And that's what makes you reputable. It's just not, you're just throwing dust in the wind on this. Right. But when you look at the Dodgers, and we'll get into the Rojas thing, that'll lead up to where I'm going to head with this. But the last 4 years, including this year, losing about 8-9 guys, there's an underlying problem in Los Angeles with the Dodgers. And I don't know if it's the platooning, and I don't know if it's the analytics, but it's something. And when you lose guys like Trey Turner, and Trey Turner made it known that when he came out here, he was an East Coast guy and he wanted to get back east, in more ways than one. He was going to fulfill his contract out here, and that was it. But you blew out Craig Kimbrell, who kind of had a following in every city he was, whether it was Atlanta, San Diego, Boston. I know in Chicago with the White Sox, it wasn't, he was competing with Hendricks there, but he was never given a fair chance in Los Angeles. But then you blow a guy out, and this guy basically got the same money in Los Angeles that he got with the Cubs, and he basically took the Cubs' money. So Cody Bellinger, in my mind, said, well, he was tired of the platooning and tired of the analytics, and he hightailed it to Chicago on a 1-year contract. So I kind of scratched my head on that one. But then Justin Turner, who I looked at was the Kirk Gibson, that we lacked in Los Angeles for a lot of years, ended up signing a 2-year deal with Boston. Why would he leave after he kind of kept the clubhouse intact, and was more of a leader? And then when the Dodgers did sign somebody, you brought in, JD Martinez, who I liked. You brought in Noah Syndergaard, who I liked. you brought in Jason Hayward, who I liked, and you brought in Rojas. And I'm saying to myself, well, you lost 8, 9 guys, 2 in particular that kind of, one was a defensive outfielder, the other guy that kind of kept the clubhouse. And then you saw your redheaded stepchild, the San Diego Padres, load up the deck. You get 4 million fans coming through the turnstiles in Los Angeles, and this is all you brought in to compensate. To me, you're more closer to Colorado and Arizona than you are to San Francisco and San Diego winning the division. And I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at this team now, and if it started the season today, Scott, they got 2 guys at that top of the rotation. Julio Urias, to me, is a number 3 on most teams. Clayton Kershaw is, you're going to get injury prone during the season. He ain't going to go 100 and something. He ain't going to make 20 something starts. And then you got 3 guys in that lineup, with Betts, Freeman, and Smith, who is a damn good catcher. But you have no depth. Your outfielder, if you had to start the outfielder today, would be Chris Taylor, Trey Thompson, and Mookie Betts. Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's not going to put fear in anybody's hearts in Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta, St. Louis, and San Diego. So there you go. I mean, I bring the facts. I'm not just shooting from the hip. I don't hate something without bringing facts to it.
Well, I'm not even questioning that anyways. I can just tell you my own personal experience of Miguel Rojas is there's more to him than what your facts are going to be, because I got to know the guy real well. I saw a lot of him here in Miami, and I think he'll be an asset. Is he going to be that big Grand Slam addition? No, but let's go to the chat room real quick, Mark, okay? Will Vogel, obviously one of our fans here. He comes on a lot of shows. Grateful that you're back on, Will, as always. But he comments, in my opinion, Dodgers didn't make enough moves. So it sounds like to me he definitely thinks the same way you do. Let's face the reality: the Dodgers did not go out there. They're probably near the luxury tax too. And when they figure they've spent a lot and you haven't get a return on investment, I think that would factor. But I just want to make sure I get the Rojas thing out there, though. Miguel Rojas, just watch him this year. I'm going to tell you right now, Mark. He's not that big, impactful player, but he does a lot of the little things and the leadership that most people with any organization would appreciate. So, Will, thank you very much for the comment. We both, Mark and I, can definitely agree with where you're coming from as well. So, well done, Will. So we'll go from there. Yeah, no, this kid here, Vogel, comes up with some pretty interesting stuff, and every single show we go on, he's always got a pretty valuable opinion, and this one certainly lived up to his reputation. So,
well, and not only that, Scott, I think, if you want to look at the Southern California team between the Angels and Dodgers, I think the Angels will have a better record down the line than the Dodgers this year.
Well, then you know what? That's something we're going to monitor as we continue throughout baseball season for sure. So, with that said, we're going to, you're wearing that Pittsburgh Pirate cap, so I might as well throw you a bone with the Pirates, and Andrew McCutchen goes to Pirates on a 1-year, $5 million deal. You know what? He's traveled around a lot, and I'm glad the Pirates can afford him. If there's any guy that deserves to go back to Pittsburgh that has a great reputation, more power to Andrew. Were you happy with that pickup?
Well, I will tell you this, doing the Pirate podcast with their first base coach, Tarek Brock, I'm just so blessed to do it, going on my 3rd year. I like the pickups the Pirates did. Andrew McCutchen will, when he talks, everybody listens. He's a leader. They brought in Rich Hill. He might be the oldest in baseball, but if I'm a pitcher, I'm absorbing everything like a sponge from that guy. You got G-Man Choi, formerly of Tampa Bay, who, will give you what he's been giving you, consistency. Santana came in there. So I like the pickups of the Pirates. And I said, they're this is the year they're going to do some damage. I'm not saying they're going to win a World Series, but this is the year everybody will know where Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is.
That's fair enough. To me, it's a low-risk move, 1 year, $5 million for a guy that they really like in Pittsburgh. So I have no problem whatsoever with them making a move. I was kind of glad that they did. A guy moves around different spots. It's not like they're overpaying this guy anyway. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and bring Will back on again. And why don't you comment on it? Touch will help with the youth of the team. And I like Cruz and Hayes, and those two have plenty of upside. All right, Mark, why don't you go ahead and comment to what Will put out there?
Well, Will's hitting it right there. They've been building something with Ben Cherington, Derek Shelton, for a few years. And, sometimes you got to, take your lumps before you can win. But, with Hayes and Reynolds there and, Kutch and just, now the leadership of the rotation with Rich Hill showing those young guys. I like the progress. When you look at the National League Central, I've always said it, show me another division, maybe other than the American League East, where the last, 7-8 years, everybody's been a threshold in that division. If you look at it, the Cubs have been winners, the Brewers have been winners,
Right.
the Cardinals, the Reds, the Pirates, in the 2015. Another division, that hasn't really done much other than that to keep pace. Look at the National League West. When was the last time we've seen Arizona and Colorado relevant?
True. Yeah, but you're right though. Let's stay on point here for a moment, okay? That division the Pirates are in is definitely one for the taking every year. The only one that I can honestly say that, they're always in it, St. Louis Cardinals, but the Cubs have been up and down lately. The Milwaukee Brewers will go as far as their checkbook will take them. Cincinnati Reds run into that as well. So if the Pirates can put together a halfway decent record, they're relevant. But what do you have left, Mark? What do you have? The St. Louis Cardinals? That's about it. All right. You know what? I'm going back to Vogel again. So we'll just keep it rolling with this guy. All right. Choi is also a solid player himself, too, and was no slouch on the Rays. So there you go. So, Will, you keep bringing him in, and I'll put him up there for you, pal. And I should point out a little bit about Will Vogel here. I work with this guy on a show called Basket Bros on Sideline Sports. So I work with them. I'm a consultant for them, but Will is one of the key contributors on that. So Basket Bros on Sideline Sports. But this guy is pretty well rounded too. He knows a lot about every sport. He does, but basketball is his deal. But he's a chameleon. He can get around.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does, and as indicated by the comments, he knows this guy knows what he's talking about. All right, I'm going to bring it back home here to Miami, where the Marlins and the Minnesota Twins traded a pretty good trade. Interesting, really. The Minnesota Twins traded reigning AL batting champ Luis Arias off to Miami, and here's a little bit of information about Arias: 316 average. He's a contact specialist. He was a first-time All-Star. He's 25 years old. He's under team control. And Pablo Lopez going up to Minnesota he's 26 years old. So you have a 25 and 26-year-old players in their prime, mind you, okay? And Pablo Lopez set an MLB record for most consecutive Ks to start a Game 9, which I happened to be at that game, by the way. 28-31, 3.94 run average, 489 strikeouts, but this guy's an innings eater. Minnesota's getting a really good player, but the Marlins have tried to address their offensive issues, and by bringing on Gene Segura to complement Arias, and they have to hope and pray that Jorge Soler gets back on track, as well as some of the other guys. So what are your thoughts, Mark, about this trade?
Yeah, I like it. I like the Marlins, the pickups of the Marlins. I really do. I mean, I think they got a little better of it, and wasn't a big major trade, like the big ones we're used to seeing, but little things like this add up to the bigger picture in Miami.
Don't tell me that. And let me tell you, let me tell you something. This trade is much bigger than you even think, because you're out in Southern California. You're not making any sense on this one. So you know what? Vogel will make more sense out of you on this. Let's see what he has. Huge trade for Marlins. I like Arias. Jazz Chisholm Jr., who's going to actually be moving to center field. Alcantara, Solar. And I think the one thing that Will mentions here is JJ Bleday. He's another young guy that you can bring up here. So anytime you have a team with Sandy Alcantara on it, and to me, you're definitely, and Jazz Chisholm, if he can stay healthy, he'll be fine. But this guy is quick.
Well, and that's the big thing we're looking at is when you look at the Marlins and the Pirates, you kind of want to look at it in down the line. The Marlins got some nice pitching in that system there. The Pirates, they're loaded up, 2 number ones in the last 3 years. So I feel real confident of where we're going with the Pirates, especially Henry Davis in Louisville, moving up the ladder there. So, but the thing there is, after Alcantara, and you got to keep him healthy, I think that the biggest deficit here is the division is keeping you at bay.
Oh yeah.
And the reason being, Phillies and Braves and Mets aren't going anywhere. So
Right.
it doesn't matter how many guys you get down there and load up. You in Washington are going to be looking up. At least I like our chances in the National League Central. There's the Cardinals there, but we can overthrow St. Louis.
Yeah, there's no question that you really nailed this one, Mark. And the reason why is that is a tough division. The only chance the Marlins have to get in is if they could get in with a wild card situation that way, because you are right. The Mets are loaded, the Braves haven't regressed, and more importantly, the Phillies are spending a lot of money like there's nothing. They think that money tends to grow on trees, and I can only imagine what they're going to be like there. They caught everybody off guard. A lot of the best teams didn't even make it to the World Series, and Philadelphia snuck up on everybody and got there. So we'll see if some of the
Well, and not only that, Scott, and sorry to jump in on it.
That's okay.
I looked at the Marlins situation a little different than most. And, I try to bring facts behind it. Like I said earlier in the show, you lose to Derek Jeter and you lose to Don Mattingly. To me, that was a threshold there. That was, really something to build on something. If they gave Derek Jeter the keys to the city, I think the Marlins would have took this thing and kind of threw their hat in the ring. Now it doesn't matter what they do moving forward. They're going to be looking up at these three teams for quite a while.
Well, no debate there, Mark. And again, we'll go back to Will Vogel. Maybe there's a pun intended with a name like that. We'll go back to Will. Okay, Vogel. And that Sandy Alcantara won the Cy Young this past year and can win many more, in my opinion. Well, you're really not alone with this one. I think everybody probably feels that Sandy can go ahead and win it. But what you need to do before you even get the Cy Young Award, Will and Mark, is you need to put runs on. You need to score some runs. That's all there is to it. That's been and you know what, Mark? I agree with you. I hate to see Don Mattingly and Derek Jeter go. Kim Ng right now, the real focus is on her. How good are you, Kim? Now you don't have any excuses, okay? Don Mattingly's out of your way. Derek Jeter, okay, they did bring in Jeff Conine, kind of like as an advisor, so he'll be watching and things. But so I'm anxious to meet up with him for sure. But, it's some interesting points.
Yeah, so, Kim Ng is good. I liked her when she was out here in Los Angeles. You got a first-year manager there, and he's going to take his lumps too. And that's the thing. But Sandy's going to, he's going to have to string together some real, and playing in that division. And now I think you're with everybody playing everybody. The Phillies, Braves, and Mets can't take their shots on you as much.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting to see him, but I saw him last year and he got railroaded by the Dodgers. Dodgers teed off on him, in the first few innings. So, that's not the Sandy Alcantara we're used to seeing.
Well, that's true. But you know what? He's got a Cy Young Award. It was well-deserved. One more topic I want to get to before we wrap this bad boy up. Scott Rowland gets into the Hall of Fame. 6 year of eligibility, 76.3%. He joins Fred McGriff. Todd Helton should have gotten in, 72.2%. Don't know why that happened. I've written a story on Todd Helton, one of the nicest guys you can ever meet. So give me your thoughts about the Baseball Hall of Fame. Did they get it right or semi-right?
Well,
you got bear with me 1 minute. You got Fred McGriff in there and Rowland, but Todd Helton should have gotten in. Okay, continue.
Fred McGriff's a great guy. I talked to him a couple of years ago. Great individual, very consistent. Scott Rowland, I don't know. How do you, to me, the Hall of Fame in some ways is like the NCAA when they come up and vote for the final four. It's everybody's opinion, and they don't bring a lot of facts behind it. Just one man's opinion on this. But how do you keep a Dave Parker out? That was well deserving of it. Played so many years. You bring a Scott Rowland. I have no problem on some of these things, but it's really head scratching to notice that, to me, I will say this, every year till he gets in there is why isn't Barry Bonds on this? Why isn't a Roger Clemens? Why isn't a Pete Rose? To me, those are guys, that.
Yeah, but those are scandal guys, Mark. There's a difference. I'll go back to Will again. He's technically our third person on the broadcast, and when I end this show, he'll know exactly why he has. But I agree. This Helton should have gotten in for sure, and I don't think you're going to get a debate. It was so close. Why didn't he get in? To me, it's a mystery.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're going to let Will continue on a roll. I love what this guy's doing, Will. Keep it up, pal. How do you keep Madeline Murphy, Parker, and numerous others out? Well, Will, maybe one of these days, and I think you already know, being around me a little bit, GMTA, Will, commit it to memory. Great minds think alike, and you're definitely showing your colors tonight that great minds think alike. Will, keep up the good work in the chat room. So with that said, I think it was a mistake that Hilton by me didn't get in. And you know what? I will always argue for Don Mattingly. I don't care what he says. So, I mean, and of course, you just alluded to Dave Parker. So there's really no exact science. But to me, Roland gets in, okay. But I was more impressed with Fred McGriff.
How about Steve Garvey? Garvey? He led the, fielding and everything for 3 straight years. He was a mainstay in L.A. How come he's not in the Hall of Fame?
Well, that's true. But you know what? Right now, the Hall of Famer on this show is going to be Will Vogel. Thank you for the kind words. Well, all you did was earn them. So compliments all there. Well done. Yeah, he's doing this guy. This guy here has got some raw talent, raw ability. What I've been trying to do with Will, and I think we really have something with this guy, is he's such an asset in the chat room. He really, really is. There's no pressure on him to go behind the keyboard and let his mind and his hands work well. And obviously, Will's skills have been on this. And why am I mentioning a lot about Will Vogel tonight? I'll tell you exactly why. When I see an active participant on a show, and we encourage other people to get involved as well, what are you waiting for? I mean, all right, well, we could go out there and say Jeff Kent, but we're not going to go there. I think you've rambled off enough.
Will a thrill.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's a lot, but with all due respect, Jeff Kent, but nobody can solve the Hall of Fame mystery. So, great show tonight, Mark. I really wanted to talk about baseball, and there were some pertinent things that I felt was necessary to get out there, and I feel that we definitely addressed each and every one of those. So, what we're going to do is, Mark, give you an opportunity to let everybody get hold of you, and then I'll close this thing out, and we will see you on Saturday with Bruce Kessinger. Go ahead, Mark.
XM 203, Sirius 217. Philadelphia WWDB this week. We'll have Kermit Washington on. I'm doing a one-on-one Friday with Perry Manassian, GM of the Los Angeles Angels, and then Billy Williams on Saturday right after your show.
Well, impressive list, but nobody cares unless you get them on here, man.
Yeah, no, I know.
All right, well, I'm just telling you, man.
It's never the goal. It's always the journey.
Well, good. Make sure the journey leads them to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Then we'll be talking more about the journey as well.
Make sure you get a pirate hat when they win the World Series.
Well, okay. We'll see if I'm alive back then. But then again, we'll see when the Detroit Lions get to the Super Bowl. Anyways, iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. Our goal here is 1,000 subscribers and then some. Also, a few other things we're pointing out. If you're on Twitter, you can locate me at Tribune South. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. And if you want to email us, feel free to do so at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. So really enjoyed talking baseball with you, Mark. And so I will end it on this note, okay? On behalf of myself, Madman Mancini, and also Will Vogel, thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up. Mark and I will be back at it next Tuesday night, hopefully with a guest. But meanwhile, we hope you enjoyed your time and your evening with us. And once again, Will, great job, pal. Thanks. Have a good night, everybody. And we'll catch you next Tuesday night here on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. Good night, everybody.